and then here it is.
I saw that you got one of the rovers.
Yes.
How about that?
And a murder floof. I know that they're technically trash nebula caterpillars, but I prefer calling them murder floof.
That's canon.
Can you give us any tidbits about season 3? Anything that you can tell us?
No.
Lotor.
Nothing. There's nothing we can tell you. Why you wouldn't even want that?
There's nothing tiddly or bitty about season 3, so.
I mean, like Lance dies, and so that's just
Spoilers.
a fun moment.
That was a crazy episode.
That was a crazy episode. Yeah, exactly.
Get ready for that one, guys.
Yeah. No. Well, no, but yes.
Check the date today.
There you go. That's about as far as we can go.
I don't know. I personally am very excited about season 3. Me personally, it's my favorite season.
Well, I mean, I guess the one thing that we know about the next season is that Lotor is going to show up, and he's going to be a very different type of villain than we've seen.
Is he going to be like his original incarnation, or is he going to be different from the?
He's going to be different, but it's definitely, that's the wellspring, right? That's the inspiration.
Evoking
for
the
it.
name of Lotor.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, basically.
But like all of our Voltron universe, we kind of rebooted in our own way. I don't think we ever felt like we were tied to anything in the original that wasn't going to feel right in this one. But yeah, he's completely different from Zarkon. We'll
Can I
see
just
all
say that he's
later.
complex?
Yes, you can.
Lotor is, in my opinion, one of the most complex characters.
Honestly, that could even be an understatement.
Yeah.
He is intricate.
He's got a master plan that he's looking to execute.
Did you have a favorite episode from season 2 that you were especially proud of?
I think for me, the Space Mall episode.
I was going to say that's...
Everybody's saying that.
Yeah. I just remember
it's
there's
such
a
a
lot of it
depressor.
there too, and like the comedy stuff is just we're just having a good time, just laughing and trying to make each other laugh, which is always fun.
It's amazing. Every single recording session, there's some comment from someone in the booth about how Voltron outtakes have to be a thing, because there are just so many, and everybody, there's so many just tracks of just strings of curse words when someone messes up, and then back to kid friendly, and then just fart sounds.
A lot of ad-libbing, too. Just
Yeah.
like people trying stuff that will clearly never make it into the show and just can't. But so this, I think it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I want to say that was probably the most lighthearted of all the episodes this season. And, and I mean, we joke around all the time in the booth anyway, but when it's a funny script, then the jokes just fly.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm sure there's a ton of outtakes.
It's very sad for Shiro on that episode. He's not having a good day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but he ends up coming back with a
Soul-searching,
good
with some answers.
Yeah, he definitely comes back with a few answers and more questions, but more insight into what happens. So I think that even though it seems like a struggle for Shiro, and it seems like a very heavy episode for Shiro, he does learn a lot.
I think that season 2 had some great moments where we kind of get to expand on the characters, because the first, doing this run of like 13 episodes in season 1, it's really a lot coming out at once. It's like you got to set up the whole world. You got to like get everybody in their lines. You got to set up Voltron, and then season 2 is a little bit more of a kind of we can reset, we can take a break, we can have episodes like Space Ball, or we can see Hunk and Lance in their own world. We see, meet the murder floofs. Everybody hits their own little solo moment. So I think that's nice about as we kind of play out the episodes is like there's just a little bit more color to all the characters.
Well, I just love the cliffhanger
we know.
of season 2. We know the cliffhanger of season 2. Come on.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite clips. I literally got, when Kree says summon Lotor, Prince Lotor, I literally got goosebumps. It's just like, oh my god.
I think my favorite is probably the mermaid episode, just because it's got the mermaids in it. I love the mermaids. But I really like the episode that takes place on Tangier, just because it's a really great way to show like a lot of teamwork happening. We've got Allure and Keith like off on their own, having like some kind of deep conversations about real social issues, and then you have like the guys back at the adventure side of things, but really kind of displaying that they work together as a team, and just operating on all levels. And it was fun, and we just felt like it was really executed really well on Mir's part. It just looked beautiful, all these crazy like planet parts floating into the sky. I liked it.
Yeah, that one's a total complete package. I'm going to go opposite that and go for purely the superficial nostalgia trip, the mall episode is my favorite one.
We hear that a lot.
It was just, I mean, it kind of had every pillar that I remember growing up, you know, having to wait by like the fountain for your friends, or having to like, you know, not rely on any cell phones, and you know, meeting up sort of randomly and getting to these random adventures in the mall. The 80s, you know, sort of a gray alien store, which was our homage to like Suncoast Video. That was, you know, a big nostalgia trip. I think it was just a fun side adventure that at the same time kind of was the linchpin to this massive storyline of them getting these Skulltrite lenses for the castle ship. It was just fun.
Honestly, I really liked that Pidge was the only one kind of solo
Yeah.
in that kind of world, because that's something that she always wanted. And then as soon as she got it, she was like, crap, I like these guys. Now what?
Yeah, she builds her friends.
I think just making sure that in an ensemble cast that like each of those characters gets some sort of moment. Like they won't always get like a huge focus every season, but just making sure that in the long run, like we give each of those characters their due. It's really important to us, and it's not even just the main five. There's like Allure and Karan, and also the villains. Like we tend to kind of roll them out slowly and just give little hints here and there, but.
And we're also, you know, there's a bigger picture at hand, so things will pay off in the long run. We ask that people just stay along for the ride. But you know, it's really interesting because when first season came out, a lot of what we heard online was like, hey, we'd like to see more Keith, and we're like, it's coming, and it came. Second season came out, and they're like, Hunk and Lance, what's going on? And we're like, just wait, guys, I promise you. We love each character equally. We're not trying to write anybody out of the show. But it's the risk of doing an ensemble cast.
One of my favorite things we got to do in season 2 was utilize what began as a typo, Vrepet Sal. It was supposed to be Vrepet Sal, and then somebody wrote Vrepet Sal, and I was like, what's Vrepet Sal? It's like the delivery joint that goes down to all the Gower stuff. I was like, oh, it's Vrepet Sal. And then like we got to put it in the show.
Barcon is totally just Paul Blart.
So, yeah.
I heard some people expounding about Varkon, saying like, what if he's Zarkon's brother, who like just never could live up to the standards in the family, and he went and became this mall cop, and that's why he kind of like he sort of like kneels in the temple of Zarkon. He's like, I'll show you one of these days. And I was like, no, I don't think it's any of that.
No, but it's funny.
Yeah.
So technically that's 3 seasons you've had with these characters. Is there anything that you're particularly proud of about your character, either the writing or what you've brought to it, something that really like, that you want to pat yourself on the back about?
I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I watched again for like the 4th time. I watched season 2 last night. I just wanted to be whatever, and I'm just so impressed with just all the cast. I mean, there's just so much good stuff. And our casting, or what do you call it, voice director, Andrea Romano, she does such a great job of casting all of the other incidental parts, people that just have to come in and just be a part of this world. And there's so many of those characters, and I'm really impressed with that too, with what she does with that. So that's not bragging about me, but just about being a part of a show that's so tight and just so well organized. And
I think a good episode is always one where they have as many of us in the booth as possible.
Yeah.
When it's like a couple of us, you know, like I remember there was like Good Guy like Thursdays, and I showed up on like a Bad Guy Friday or something one time, like where it was all the like bad guys.
That's so cool.
And I was like, I don't like this. It was like Cree and like AJ and everybody, and it was all the bad guys, and I just didn't fit. I didn't fit in there. Missed my good guys.
All these jokes coming from this corner, and all the bad guys are just looking at you.
I didn't make a single joke. I remember like being in the corner, being like, "It's not appropriate. This is not the right time. These guys are busy being bad."
Obviously,
they're angry.
Neil wasn't there.
Neil was there, but he was like, he was in a mood.
Oh, that would do it.
I just like the chemistry. Between all the characters on screen, but also just in real life. Like we're all very good friends, and we all get along super awesome. And it does have that family feel, and I think it definitely translates into the show too. You can definitely feel it, and you can definitely hear it. We're all having, such a good time recording it, and so I think for me that is definitely what I'm the most proud of. Like no matter what, you look back and just be like, that was such a great experience,
right,
all the way around.
I'd have to echo that. I'm proud of everybody on this show, and the other thing that I'm really happy with is I'm happy with the fact that the writers are depicting Shiro as an example of somebody with PTSD, and really having that as representation for that, and showing how it affects people in different ways. It's not always something that's so debilitating outwardly that the person's not going to do anything. It might be pushing on with their life. They might be in a position, a leadership position. It might be anything, and still have all of these things that they have to deal with that nobody is privy to, and that they might not know how to talk to anybody for help. And I love that that's being shown.
So you guys we're talking a little bit about classic Voltron, but obviously at the end of the season you bring in the big sword. At the end, how do you decide when it is to bring in those sort of classic elements? Because you don't pull them out too often, but when you do, they're a big deal.
That was Lauren's idea. I don't know if you even remember that.
I do
Flaming
remember. Well, there's a few reasons. Like, we have a production reason why we don't go to Flaming Sword very often,
Right.
and that's because animating flames on like a 2D and CG object, like in tandem, is very difficult for studio me to handle. So we try to save it for the moments that really count. And we had this big battle with Voltron and Zarkon at the end of the season, and it was awesome, but it was still just a battle, and we were looking for just a good way to end it, and Blazing Sword seemed like a really awesome moment to just really kind of hit it home. And that's what we did. We had the moment of Shiro getting his Bayard back, and that was kind of the linchpin in them finally being able to pull on that Blazing Sword.
But I remember a giant cheer going out in the writers' room when Lauren pitched out the idea, and I think we were all struggling to figure out what the end of this thing was going to be, and how do you how do you feel satisfied? And when that pitch came through, it was like, oh, the flaming sword.
Did you worry that maybe people who weren't familiar with the original Voltron, they would still just think a giant flaming sword is super cool?
Not worried about that at all.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is like, it's still a really cool moment. It's still a bit of like a change to the norm of this sword.
And
so,
we teased it pretty early on. Yeah. It was teased in there, like that flashback or kind of headspacey moment.
They had that vision of Voltron with this flaming sword, but they've never had the flaming sword. But then as soon as all paladins had their Bayards, like all in unison, bam, flaming sword, ultimate teamwork.
3 seasons along, what do you think has been one of the biggest challenges in this show? Like something that you struggle with, or something that you've overcome, or there's so many difficulties, but what would be one that would stick in your mind?
I mean, production itself is very hard, and trying to maintain a certain level of quality and not, it's easy to sort of fall back on, I don't want to call them bad habits, but fall back on conventions that you feel comfortable, that you feel you can knock out like every time, and trying to keep growing and furthering yourself as an artist. And that's crew-wide. That's from the writing, designing, production, all that stuff. I think it's a lot of episodes, and there's a lot of characters to track. So we try to take rests when we can, but there's not a lot of time to take rests.
I mean, ultimately, you're trying to give something that people will just appreciate and they'll just love, whether it be, having moments where you're trying to make people laugh, which is a lot of my stuff generally. Lance's stuff is in the comedic realm usually, is whether it be just me screaming really loud and voice cracking, or
those are the most fun parts.
Yeah, or exactly, or hopelessly hitting on someone that is never going to happen. But also, you just really want to make sure that no matter what, you're still making the characters real as characters, and they have their personality traits, but ultimately they're still all real people down deep, and so you just want to show off that and see how they're growing throughout the show from season 1 till whenever.
How do you go about balancing a show like this that has a lot of character and a lot of heart, but also a lot of world building? How do you go about balancing those two things to make sure that one doesn't overtake the other?
Well, I think they kind of feed on each other, because when you think about, building a new, when you go to a new planet, let's say you're going to go visit a new planet and you're going to see this new group of aliens that we've never seen before, you automatically think of how each one of the characters is going to interact with this race, So when you think about the Alkari, or this race of scientists, it's obviously this is a Pidge episode where she's going to, she's going to be attracted to this. So it kind of, you can't have one without the other. It's just, no one's going to be interested in where we just go to some planet and no one interacts with them, right? I mean, you want to see the paladins get in there. It's always based on what the paladins are up to me.
And I think it's cool that these characters are pretty well defined. So it's just great to have, to get to know them even better through all these different situations, and you kind of know what they're going to do, and there's still surprises along the way. So I don't know. I think we're just trying to stay true. The writing is just so great on this show.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can. I'd love that.
Just, and a major sort of point of pride I think about this season was like the opening up of all the different worlds and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, how do you come up with these totally, immersive, like really kind of comprehensive worlds? And what you just said made me think, like, did you guys design a lot of those worlds just so we can explore parts of the Paladins? Or are you guys
No,
sitting
that
down
sounds
what
like a
would be
better
cool
way, though.
world or
That
whatever?
sounds really cool.
Because I was like, I wonder if you like start thinking like, well, what kind of world do we want to see Pidge like explore? What would like work with her character and what would make the most entertaining?
I
or
think-
do you go work the other way around?
When we start with a season, you think about like, well, what are the arcs we want to see happen this season? Like, where do we want these characters to go? At the same time, we're always kind of like taking in, kind of watching Cosmos or whatever, and being like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if we saw this star explode? And like, then automatically it's like, well, what would be the plot that gets us to that point? And so it kind of like builds on. If you come up with like a really cool world, but there's not an episode for it, then you just throw it away, right? Or you just put it on. It's a card that goes on the board and stays there for the next thing.
We really just have to listen to the script.
I know.
And the script kind of tell us everything we need to know. And sure, we could bring in other stuff, but there's really not a whole lot into it. Everything really is well defined. And I guess with Shiro, it's the stuff I see going forward would be seeing how he's not perfect.
But yeah, I like your way too.
That's how I do it. That's what I would do.
A little bit sharper.
So if the sky's the limit, what haven't you had a chance to do yet that you're hoping to do? A type of episode, a type of storyline? Is there anything that you're just like, we're working towards it?
Oh my goodness. There's definitely stuff that like we're working towards, but as far as like things like I know
Playing this
Joaquim
guy.
really wanted to do a pro wrestling episode.
I did very much. I'm wearing a WWF shirt.
He's like, he loved it. We don't know if we can fit it in,
Yeah,
but,
I'm not sure.
but it was definitely
I think
like
we
a
also
dream.
like halfway through kind of conceptualizing it, we were like, you know what, it was done so well on Avatar The Last Airbender that we like just kind of want to leave that one alone because it was just handled so beautifully in that show. But Voltron wearing like arm tassels and like furry boots, that's something at some point I gotta see.
So you guys just came from a signing. Do you have any memorable fan reactions that you've gotten over the course of this show? Anything that springs to mind?
All of them.
Yeah, all of it. The cosplay,
Yeah.
the artistry. There's
That was nuts. That's
that's just there was so much, but so many
And people
awesome
Most
artists.
not even
People
a
there
year
were
ago.
cosplaying.
I
yeah,
know.
No, yeah.
Like that's what blows my mind. Like when I think about it, it seems like so long ago that we were at WonderCon
But it's a year
premiering
ago,
the show,
It's only been like a year then.
and it hasn't even been a year.
Right.
And
know.
to go from that to this, where we go to a signing where there's an overflow line,
Incredible.
and it's not just a couple people in cosplay. I mean,
Right.
Jeremy was saying it was like half the people were in serious cosplay.
I feel like it almost was like more than half. Yeah, most of them were in. It was crazy. Yeah.
Relationships that have jumped up, like there's a huge clans following.
Yeah.
The love for Pidge, like I see just a lot of Pidge cosplay, which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing, like seeing that level of dedication and commitment to a year-old show.
Yeah.
Just
And that they
it made us
love,
feel
yeah.
amazing.
It's just,
seeing that.
there's a lot to love about it, and there's so many characters, and everyone has their character they love, and for their reason that they love it. So I think more people love Lance and Keith and Shiro, but
I
there is
saw a lot of allures today.
I did. Yeah.
I did see a lot of Allures
and
too.
a lot of really good allures.
Yeah, too. And
That's
Pidge.
one of the
I
hardest
actually saw
costumes to do.
everything. And yeah, Keith's everyone with the red jackets. I don't know. I think it's just so cool to know that you're a part of a good show, but then to have that validation of like meeting people who really enjoy it and love it.
And they don't
It's
just
cool.
like it; they
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's a testament to everybody's work on the show.
Right.
And just,
It's just cool to be a part
makes
of it.
us all feel great when people actually like what we're doing.
Yeah, I know. It's like
And
pinch
as
yourself.
actors, I mean, we go in and we record this, and it doesn't come out for at least a year.
Yeah.
At least probably
At
a year
least
and a half.
Well,
Yeah.
probably with
More.
Netflix, it's actually more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a tendency for us to go in the booth, do our performance, and
Forget it.
forget about it, and not really remember that this show has a life after we leave the booth, obviously, and to see people so excited about it, it kind of brings us back to that point.
Yeah, totally.
It's neat.
Totally.
And it's growing fast. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Like I think we all knew our affinity for Voltron going into it, and that there would certainly be a niche crowd, and we would be leaning on sort of this like base foundation of fans or whatever. But man, it's like it's reaching a lot of people and touching a lot of people,
And they just keep coming.
and just keep coming.
Yeah.
All ages.
And
like
they keep coming back, too.
Yeah. But like, perfect example just now in that lineup that we were in, or the signing. I was like, yeah, look at, I mean, like a cosplay is like, I mean, what better gauge of how much a show is sort of affecting people and hitting them than to see how many people come here dressed up like the characters you love. So if that's any indication. I would say-
And they're so good at it,
yeah,
too.
doing pretty well.
It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Like, not only do they do it well. It's
Put
awesome.
some thought
Yeah.
and time into it, yeah.
It makes me happy. Shiro, clearly a front runner as well.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the cool thing is that I think everybody's got their character that they gravitate towards, and I think that's the cool thing about having a team as your main character, really.
I cannot tell you how many cosplayers were coming through the line being like, yeah, I finished this 2 hours before I came here.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
There was a girl in the line today who was dressed as Pidge, obviously, because they all are. And it was...
Pigeon Keith.
Pigeon Keith, yeah. Well, Lance. There's a lot of Lances.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like shaking. She was so excited for us to sign, like all the way down the line. And I was like, oh, man, like calm down, take a breath. And she was just like... I can't. I just started watching this like a month ago, and I was like, "Well, hold on." You started watching this a month ago, and it got on top of you this quickly. And she was like, "Oh, it's all I think about." That's like, you can't get addicted to a drug that fast. She's like for real. She was just like it had taken over her body and her mind. And I was like, "All right, something. You guys are doing something either really right or really, really wrong."
It's, yeah.
Like
I don't.
devious.
Either way, I'm
like,
cool with it.
Yeah. Don't stand in our way. Is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Try to stop the Voltron train.
Voltron.
The Voltron. Yeah.
Voltron.
John Voltron.
I can't wait till I see a Varkon cosplay on a Segway.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see it. I want to see it so bad.
Oh man.
That should be the
Train's
title of the
coming.
musical episode.
Yeah.
Voltron.
Voltron. Yeah. The Voltron.
Yep. Moving on.
We're good.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Take care, big ass.